Hey guys, this is Corey Hyden from Free Play Arcade, and we're here for a very, very special Free Play Arcade podcast. We're here at the Premier Event Center. Tomorrow, when this video airs, is going to be another auction here by American Amusement Auctions, Louisville, Texas. But you know, we've been auctioning for a while, but let me go ahead and do introductions. Myself, Corey Hyden. You, Richard
Rodriguez, COO.
You got
Free
it.
Play.
You can handle it yourself. You've been coming to auctions with me for a long time. Oh wait, before I saw the producer's eyes just then for a split second, and he telepathically told me, if you are watching this on any platform, there's probably a subscribe button that you can click right now to get more of this amazing content. The bell icon on YouTube is apparently like the most valuable thing in the world. I've been watching more YouTubers lately, and they're like so crazy about this bell icon. So if you're on YouTube, bell icon all day, click it just once. But otherwise, we're here today. We're at this event center. This is probably the third or fourth venue I've been going to regular auctions at. And I was going to kind of catch up with you, though. When was the first auction you came to with me? I can't really remember. Were we still at Big Town?
Yeah, we were definitely at Big Town. What was the place before?
That was the Mesquite Rodeo.
Gotcha. Okay, no, I don't think I ever went to the Mesquite Rodeo.
Okay, so for people who are watching this that are not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and if you hear some background stuff, we've got all sorts of stuff happening. They're setting up for this auction tomorrow. Dragon's Lair 2 is very noisy. Pole position is very noisy, so you might hear those
people bringing games in,
jumping in and out. But yeah, so when I first started, it was either at Big Town or Mesquite Rodeo. They were still alternating. And I remember just like, you know, when I first started buying, I didn't have an arcade or any plans to open up an arcade.
Nope.
I just really liked arcade games, and so it was kind of a weird situation where I'd go, and especially, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I can't remember how long it is, everything was so cheap. Like, I'd go to an auction, especially when I was still an attorney, and I'd be like, you know, there'd be like a game I kind of liked, go for $100 or $80, and I'd be like, and it would be in decent shape. And so I had to buy it.
Well, why not at that point?
Well, yeah, and then of course the why not turns out all those trucks and warehouses and stuff that you have to hold these things.
Well, I remember we had storage units in just about everyone's name.
And I remember, to get that first free month. Yeah, and I remember, you know, we were using rental trucks with ramps.
Oh, that was terrible.
And that's a good way to get a good leg workout, but also hurt a lot the next day.
Well, I was so thankful when we bought our first truck with the lift gate. That was an amazing purchase.
That was another really bizarre purchase, since I had no arcade or even plans necessarily. At that point, I think I was planning on, like, you know, I liked arcades so much I'd get a space for them. I would try to buy and sell them and hopefully pay for my hobby.
Well, fortunately, you had the law firm by that point,
right,
so we had a place to park it.
Well, yeah, we learned very quickly in the city of Richardson they don't like it if you park box trucks at your house. So they kept telling us to move our trucks. So we moved it to the law firm, which was a commercial space. The truck didn't exactly match the law firm, but especially pre-paint job. But it got the job done. And then, we decided to open up an arcade. But, you know, those early auctions for me were really fun. One, because there were a lot more crazy buys, and they were huge. These auctions just a few years ago were so big.
Well, everything was a little new to us then, too.
Right,
I mean, now we've been to so many auctions that, you know, you see a lot of the same things come and go, but we were buying, like, we would walk in and we would see a game that we'd never seen at auction before, and you would just buy it. Oh. You know, it didn't matter what the price was.
And every game that we bought, it would probably be the first time we were buying that game.
Right.
So it was a lot more exciting, because I'd be like, we got one of those. Now, you know, if we're buying Galaga, we've got like 15 or 20. It's like, it's not quite as exciting, but now it's different. It's a lot more fun for different reasons. One, because, you know, we're coming here trying to find hidden gold, instead of just what we used to do, which is just buy fun stuff that was cheap.
Right.
It
was also a different goal at the time, because, I mean, I remember we were filling up storage units, we were flipping games, so we would fix stuff up and sell them off, and, I mean, slightly different ambitions and goals at that point. Now, running a commercial arcade, the things that we're looking for are a little different than the things that we were just packing warehouses with.
Right, well, and of course, I remember, like, early in those auction days when I would be, like, shying off of a game, because, like, for example, if a Galaga was getting like 300, 350, I'd be like, no, I'll get it next time, that kind of stuff. Or, you know, I remember an Atari Star Wars at, like, I think it was my second auction, and at this point I had never paid more than $1,000 for a game or anything close. I was generally just happy to buy those $100 games that would come up. Those don't even exist really anymore, but I was really happy to do that. And there's an Atari Star Wars, though, that comes up for auction. It had an Amplifone. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And I was bidding against the owner, I remember, and it was like a small outfit that's no longer around that was just buying and selling refurbishing games, because what we've learned, what most people kind of know, that's a hard business to really make enough to support yourself. It's easy to have a good buy here or there, supplement a couple $100, but you can't pay your bills on a couple $100 a month.
Right.
But they'd come in, and I think it was like $1,250, $1,300 for an Atari Star Wars with an Ampliphone. I was like, whoa, this is getting too pricey. And I was the only one bidding. No one else was going for it. But I think about that moment a lot, how, now like an Ampliphone Star Wars in good shape is $3,000.
Well, now we know what the monitor alone is worth.
Well, yeah, an Ampliphone monitor by itself, I mean, they've got $2,000 good quality Ampliphone monitors, because that is the monitor used in games like Major Havoc and Quantum a little bit, early Quantums, that kind of stuff. So, and we kind of vaguely knew that, and I was thinking about that earlier today too. Like, we'll get into some of our favorite auctions in a second, but earlier I was thinking how interesting it is. I used to, I think, know more about all the nuances of more games than I do right now. I feel like when I was just going to auctions and I was spending all my time basically just reading about arcade games and looking at stuff, I feel like I had an even bigger knowledge base than I do now, despite additional experience, because my mind gets so, like, I've got so much different stuff going on, employee management, all of that other stuff that can fill your head.
Well, it takes a lot of time and effort, but I mean, still, before auctions, like, how early do you wake up before you come to an auction on Saturday mornings?
Well, I normally just want to get right there, so I'll wake up at like 5:30 and just head here, so I can kind of see the makeup of who comes in, and I can really be totally fresh and just focused only on the auction, because of course, like, if I get on my email too long, or if I start doing anything else, I'll get distracted. I won't necessarily be in the same frame of mind, especially you start checking things like email on Facebook, you get like whatever's going to irritate you that day, or something that just doesn't make any sense to you, and that gets in your head. So I try not to look at anything else, and then I come here, and I'm here for 12, 13, 15, 20 hours, especially early when the auctions were so big and you'd have 400, 500 units there. It was like nothing to buy 2 truckloads. I
remember those days when we had the one smaller truck and we'd have to take it back, unload the games, come back, load up another load.
Yeah, there was something nice about the end of those days, though. You really felt like you did something. Because your body was tired, you'd sweat all day, and you'd moved a ton of games, and now you had a lot more. So you haven't scoped out this exact auction.
No, I haven't even walked down the lines yet.
And we're gonna have all these walkthrough videos coming up, bid videos. We generally make a lot of content here. But I did a walk. This is kind of a stereotypical auction of the last 2 years maybe, where it's probably got 120, 130 total units here. Lots of retro, which is, I guess it's something we can talk about. When we first started coming to auctions, retro was a small part of the coin-op auction experience.
It's fair. Very large redemption sections, very large modern sections.
Well, and you'd see some of the redemption stuff come through, and I see some of the higher price redemption stuff here today, but you'd see like $5,000-$10,000 redemption machines right next to like $10 Holloway machines, and it wasn't that uncommon to have just rows and rows and rows of these redemption machines. I remember I bought it was the knockoff stacker, the Pilot Up or something.
Oh man, I love
Pile
that.
Up, and it was a lot of fun to have. And I think just owning that has made me much better at stacker machines. Like, I can go and I can generally always win the minor prize, and I got a good shot, maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 4 of getting that major prize, which, I guess I can tell that more people have figured out stacker too, because if I go around, the major prize for stacker used to be something, now it's not really so much. But yeah, I just bought one of those on a lark because it seemed like a good deal. We ended up selling it for more, and it was really cool, but
it lived at the
it was at the law firm for a while,
like a year and a half.
Yeah, and then we sold it for.
We played it for the New Year's party.
Yeah, and we sold it for like 4 or 5 times what I bought it for. So it was an interesting time, because I feel like especially people in other states either don't have auctions, or they used to, or have heard stories. A lot of people will watch these videos now and think that there's something wrong with this auction because the prices are so high. But I've been checking auctions everywhere. Prices are just higher. And the selection is smaller.
We participate in all of the online auctions that are various places throughout the U.S., not just the local auction scene.
Yeah, so it's definitely not uncommon for us to have a tractor trailer coming our way, filled with 30 30 or 40 games from a different auction. But this one is, of course, kind of close to us. It's our local auction, and I mean, there have been a few different auction companies come through. My early stuff was with Super Auctions, and y'all should Google search. Super Auctions will pop up here or there, but the person behind it has been like arrested, kicked out of the state, lost their license, keeps coming back. I don't know any of the specifics, but it's probably a pretty interesting story if you search on Google, because auctions are kind of, not controversial, but they have this shady reputation. And especially here in Texas, where it's almost anything can go. Like, the owner of the machine can just bid it to infinity if they wanted to.
Well, Texas auction laws.
Right. And there's, here in the state, you can't have true shill bidders, but with the ability for the owner of the machine to bid on it, it makes it so that, it's going to be a little bit more... the prices can be higher if the owner really wants to bid it up.
Right.
And it's going to be harder to actually buy some stuff, right? Because the owners will be so protective that they're not going to let good deals happen. So I've definitely seen those criticisms on some of our previous auction videos that these prices are just too high. But we do know that some of them that's just kind of how life is.
Well, I think the prices in general from these auctions, from when I started coming to them to now, have doubled, in some cases tripled. There's a substantially different market, I think, now than there were like 6-7 years ago.
Right, and a lot of it is, I think a lot of people say that it's like the barcade, retro arcade, like craze that is pushing up prices, and that can't be, like, that has to be significant too. But I think a lot of it is also the coming of age of basically our generation and above. That finally has money to buy this kind of stuff and has always dreamed of having their own, whatever 90s or 80s arcade game they happen to play, and has always dreamed of having their own. They want that. And the beautiful thing about the internet and consumer education, most people who come to these things are starting to really get that 16-1s aren't what they're looking for. Like, there was this, when we first started coming to auctions, you see a decent, like, not great, but a decent 16-1 and just like a generic cabinet, you could get $1,500 for it, $2,000 for it.
Absolutely.
New builds, you might get like $3,000 or $4,000 for what was a $50 or $60 board. Yep. So that was really weird.
And it made it an interesting market because clearly people were just cutting plywood and putting a cheap monitor in and a board set, and there you go.
And they would normally put those towards the beginning of the auction, and it was always interesting because you'd see like 5 to 7 16-1s, multicades, and
and a lot of the cocktail conversions too.
Yeah, and they'd sell through those, and then you see like a whole horde of people leave previously, and now it's not so much. You see most people sticking around. Most people are trying to get their real arcade, but just some specific unit, or trying to get just a great deal, more than trying to just buy something that they're going to drop in their man cave and hope that it works forever. Lots of changes. But we were talking about those redemption machines. We seriously used to have 300 or 400 redemption machines in some of these auctions.
Oh, yeah.
It would take hours and hours and hours to get through them. And
we could go to lunch when they started them, spend an hour away, come back, and still have another hour afterwards they'd be going through them.
Because it's kind of interesting because each auction company, even though they're different companies, they've generally had similar orders here in Texas. And it would be either parts or retro games first, and then redemption stuff. And then maybe if they didn't do parts earlier, they'd do the parts then, and then pinball. Because pinball, even since the beginning, pinball's always been the most valuable and what has the most people willing to spend money for. Because pinball is kind of, it's special. It's just always had more value than the arcade games, and now it's maybe more valuable than ever. Although with all those new releases, it's made kind of there's a top of the market, right? So with these new pinballs that are selling for $9,000 or $10,000. Especially remakes of Medieval Madness remakes, it's cut that medieval. Like I feel kind of bad for the people that still have the originals, because even though it's an original Medieval Madness, that value has been, not only has it been cut, it's a lot harder to sell the originals.
That's fair. Well, people like the reliability of the newer versions. You don't have 20, 30 years worth of wear on the game.
And credit to Chicago Gaming, they feel very similar. If not, I'm a pinball player. I'm pretty good at pinball, but you could probably convince me one way or another if I was playing a Medieval Madness that it was just a really well kept original, or if it was a new one. Because there's like 3 or 4 things that you could look for the differences. But of course, me as a buyer, I just open up the back and see if it's a tiny little board or it's like 6 terrible boards that we're gonna have to work on. So I don't know. We're kind of meandering through this auction podcast, kind of chatting on a lot of stuff. But I do remember, I think I've mentioned some of these buys before, but I wanted to touch on one time early in the auction. They're going through parts, and they had probably 100 boxes of parts, and they get to these 45s. And they have a box of 45s, and it looked like a big sizable box, kind of like, in a long box for comics or something, about the same size. And so I bid on it, and it got to $40, and I won it, and I go and I pick up this box, and I'm like, nice. And they're like, all right, yeah, these are yours. I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, these are mine. And they were like, no. And there were 15 boxes or 16 boxes, all the same size, all filled with 45. So I thought I had bought a couple hundred 45s for $40. Turned out I bought something like 25 or 2,600, like 2,500 45s.
I remember sorting through all of those.
So yeah, we did kind of what I guess anyone would do. We went through each single one, picked the best ones that we could find. And you have to assume if that was in auction, it had already been picked for the super valuable stuff, but there was some good stuff in there. And then I just put them on Craigslist, and I said, I want interesting trades or something.
Well, question, was that the same auction that you ended up getting the jukebox player, or did you get that the next one?
It might have been the next one.
Because I remember shortly after that, you ended up picking that up so you'd have something to do with all of those 45s.
Yeah. No, it wasn't the same auction, but that was another thing. My jukebox player that I have in my house right now,
which is awesome,
came from one of these auctions. Well, it was kind of cool because we've seen the jukebox market change a lot over the years. Like, you've got these old Wurlitzers that are from the 50s that showed the mechanics, and those were these big, huge, high-dollar machines for a long time. And mine's an 80s unit that's kind of as the 80s style. And when I bought it, I think I paid like $150 or $200 for it. And I looked it up, and the average value was like $500 or $600. I checked the other day, and the average sells like almost $2,000 for the same unit. So people have really like
what a deal.
Well, then there were all these people online talking at the time about how like no one likes these 80s units, and I was like, I don't know, I think it looks pretty cool. And then of course that generation comes in that can buy jukeboxes now, and the prices go. So I mean, like, if there's one thing to take away, if you want to like track this, pick about 20 years from when something was popular and start buying it, because about 4 or 5 years later it's probably going to be more valuable. Beanie Babies probably gonna. No, I'm just kidding.
Terrible advice. Don't get into the Beanie Baby market right now.
No one has. I guess their early adopters might have succeeded on the Beanie Babies.
I bet you could get them all really cheap. Well, that is at least a plus side right now.
I got a Beanie Baby yesterday for $4 or $5. So.
Nice.
No. Okay.
So much money wasted as a kid.
But I ended up taking those 45s. I traded for a Papa something that was like an old electromechanical, like tic-tac-toe game or some sort of like pseudo 5-card stud gambling game.
Oh, the
Papa, wasn't it?
No, it was a Jack's Wild, I think.
Jack's Wild, yeah. So it was
Joker's Wild.
Something like that. It was one of those machines that had like 5 balls, and you'd hit and it would pop and it would pick your card.
It was a nickel. Was it a nickel game or a dime game?
I think it was a nickelcade. And yeah, you could pick which ones you wanted to hold, and then it would give you another shot, and you would get it. And I traded those 45s for that, and eventually I sold that for probably like $1,200, something absurd.
Yeah.
After we had to do a little bit of work.
That was a cool game. I liked playing that in the back of it.
I certainly wish we still had it. Like, I never thought we couldn't possibly use it in the arcade operations, but it would be a cool game to have at the lab to mess around with.
Yeah.
I mean, we get a lot of questions that are like, are there still any deals at the auctions? And I think all you have to do is watch our auction videos to know there are still really good deals.
Absolutely.
It is true that we are the ones that are often pushing up the price, but that is also why we get some pretty good deals.
Well, I think that there's a different market for a lot of different types of games. So obviously the older games, the retro games, those are hot right now. There are a lot of different commercial arcades that are looking to purchase these. There are individual collectors that are looking to purchase them. Same thing with the pinball machines. So all of those are going to go for a little bit more of a premium than they have in the past. But if you're looking for something unusual, if you're looking for something modern, if you're looking for, drivers, any of the bigger games, a lot of the time those will actually go cheaper here at the auction because people don't want to move them. And, we have the family crowds that come in who are looking for personal use. You've got the collectors that are just looking for that specific game. They show up to see if it's here or not. And if you're looking for something very specific or in particular that doesn't necessarily appeal to the commercial setting as much, then you can get some real deals.
Right. Well, and like you were saying, those drivers can go really cheap. And what you can probably do is, if you look over the past 3 or 4 auctions, if you watch our videos, depending on the footage, you can probably find like 2 or 3 of the same driver that is sold for like $60, $70, $100 for a sit-down driver. And if you bought all 3 of those, you probably could make just a really good one, a great example of one. So,
well, or people who are looking to do the conversions, because I know people who they take those apart and they put the multi-drivers and stuff in there. I mean, if they're looking for a good base for something, I mean, there's a market for it.
And I'm gonna actually see tomorrow. They've got those silly, the thinner gambling games they've been making lately. They'll see at the back of gas stations, even though it's illegal somehow. I don't know, but they've got a set here. Of course, it's a standard thing that you see at these auctions.
Oh yeah, they pop up all the time.
If they end up going cheap tomorrow, I think I'm gonna try to buy one and track it and just show people that you can build a pretty cool little arcade that's far more, say, authentic or real, or at least more enjoyable than like those arcade one-ups and that other stuff. For cheaper, if you play your cards right, you can maybe learn something. So I'm going to see if they go cheap. They normally go cheap. There's not as many. Like last time they had, I should have done this last time because they had 80 or something of these last time.
I remember that.
I saw like 10 this time, and so I'm pretty bummed because I was hoping that like they'd all come back for some reason. But I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to experiment that if the opportunity presents itself. So yeah, look for. If you're trying to buy something at an auction, you look for a cabinet that looks like maybe good wood, good monitor, something good to it that is somehow not going to be sought after. Some game that just isn't very popular, or that's going to be a big pain to deconvert, but you have time to do it, to mess with, or something like that.
Well, I don't know. I think like we were talking about the what was it? It wasn't Stacker. It was the Pile Up.
Yeah, I think it was Pile Up.
We were talking about how you got really good at that game. Well, a lot of the redemption games at these auctions, they go super cheap, and I'm actually kind of surprised that there aren't more people who just show up to buy like the skills redemption games, take it home, get really good at it so that they could just win it everywhere that they go like get a bunch of prizes out of them, and then bring it back for the next auction.
Yeah, I have to admit, like, especially when you see prices like $5 and $10 on some of these redemption games that are good.
Absolutely.
I'm always surprised that more people aren't coming just to buy those. And I did have a question that was, I want a claw game. How should I get a claw game? Obviously, the auction's maybe the best place to get a claw game. These types of auctions, they'll still go a little bit higher than you're probably expecting, just because claw games are earners in every environment.
Absolutely.
And that's something that the home user might not think about as often. Is like, one, there's collectability and stuff, but then there's just some stuff earns. And you'll actually see like random hunting games, that kind of stuff. They'll come here, they'll sell a little bit more than they're expecting, and it's probably because it's someone that just needs to put it somewhere that's going to make some money, back of a bar or something. I mean, you could put an extreme hunting in the back of a bar with $1 per game thing, and I bet over time you're going to make a good amount of money there, because you get some people with a couple drinks in them and they see an arcade game. They might just throw, $5 or $6 in it. You never know.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll definitely pay back that tax sticker and make some money on top of it.
And then let's see. I was trying to think, just as we've been talking, my biggest auction failure.
Okay.
And I haven't been able to come up with anything that's too major. There's definitely been times where I've maybe overpaid $200 or $300 for what it was worth, and then we've had to liquidate it later. So like we'd lose like $300 or $400 on it, but that's not like a huge failure. We haven't
not huge losses. I mean, if you're going to talk about like storage costs and things, right. We have the stuff that your dad has picked up at auction, and
well, actually, that's we just brought it, and y'all be able to see in another video. Well, maybe one of my biggest failures, and I also think I've mentioned this before. I was at a huge auction, 1,200 unit auction, which was actually really, really good for us because I was able to buy like 8 Daytonas at that auction, which we've now used almost all the parts from. Like, it's Daytona USA has been a hard game to keep on the floor, but during that auction, they had like a lot, not a single lot, but it was like 50 individual stress testers that they had to sell. And I just sat there, and it took like, we were like 30, 45 minutes into selling these stress testers. And I just said, guys, I'll just take them all. And they're like, how much are you willing to pay? And I don't even remember. I was like $15, $30. I don't even know.
15, I think.
And they were just like, does anyone have a problem with him buying them all? And they were like, nope. And that seemed good for me because I got to go actually buy the games that I wanted to. And the biggest problem was they were talking about doing it over 2 days, and I was only going to be there at 1. So I wanted them in that first day to get as far as they could. And then, we've had these stress testers for years now.
Just eating up storage space.
Yeah, and storage space isn't free. And it's great if you find yourself in a position where you have just a bunch of excess storage space, but as we found in this business, it's not hard to fill. When you're talking about things that weigh hundreds of pounds that are huge, 3x3 squares or whatever they are, you can run out of space really fast, especially if you want to have access to the stuff. And that's probably a good piece of advice for the average collector at home that I don't see given enough. It's an addictive kind of buying experience, right? Because you buy one, you want one. But I see a lot of times, I talk to people who have at their house, they filled up their entire game area with games to the point that they can't enjoy them anymore. They can't play them, and that, I think it's not even that uncommon where people will just start buying and not play enough. And I think that's really important to never lose sight that these are games, these are fun, we should be playing them more. And we do the same with our storage a little bit. Thank goodness we have commercial sites that we're not allowed to pack them all in. The ADA won't let us, that kind of stuff.
Well, and we try to rotate our games regularly, so we're always getting into the back of our storage units and pulling things out. We have those days that, we dig 40 games deep to get stuff out, and we go, oh, hey, we forgot we had this. Let's go pull it out and pull it to the front so we can use it.
Well, yeah, and certainly now with, multiple trucks moving stuff around, and it's not just me and you doing it. We've got other people trying to do it, and more that we're trying to get moved games. It becomes less embedded what you have, what's available and everything. So it's something we're working on today. We're selling some of the junk.
Absolutely.
We're gonna walk through the junk with the camera to kind of point out what I think it's gonna sell for. I think what everyone has learned, if they've dealt with me, if I don't sell anything, if I actually want it. So we're gonna. If some of this sells for $1, we're gonna still be happy that it's gone for $1. Although we want more and everything.
Well, you never know. So one of my favorite moments from the auction was completely unexpected. I remember there was a redemption game that someone left that no one purchased, and they were just trying to get rid of. And they asked your dad if we would take it for free. And your dad said, we will make room for it. We had to rearrange the entire truck and put it on the truck. And you and me were just like, what are you doing? We have nothing to do with this game. You're just going to have to deal with the pain of selling it. Well, we get it back, and this was a game that no one wanted. We open it up, and it's got $80, $85 worth of quarters inside.
Yeah, I think we pulled $88 or something out of it. And it was just there. And then what
made our money.
The better part about that is then I sold the game for $100. So,
right.
So it was a totally free game that we got $188 out of, and that was purely by having space and being able to deal with it. And that worked out really well. I just saw the wheel in a wheel deal, right? The little spinner game that has tokens is what it's normally set up for.
See it over there.
And that was probably one of my biggest mistakes. Is I bought a $10 wheel deal one time. And I think I ended up paying $70 for it because I got into it with a guy.
Yeah, we got less for it than we bought it for. That was for sure. And it sat in.
No, I'm thinking about the wheel deal that we ended up having to chop up.
Oh.
We had a wheel deal that I paid $60 or $70 for.
We had two of them. We took one of them back to auction and we sold it for
We took the good one and we lost money on.
Right.
We took the bad one and I put it up on Craigslist to haul it away for free and could not get rid of it. And we had to move sites, and we were sitting there, and we pulled all the components out of it and just chopped it up, and could not get anyone to take it. And I feel bad about a game ever dying.
Of course.
No, it was a wheel deal, and those are a dime a dozen, and not that fun in their as they exist. But it was it's kind of weird because you can end up with games that you just can't get rid of, and it's costly to pay for either disposal or someone just to haul it away.
Well, and I think that there are some legitimate reasons why you would want to get rid of a cabinet or throw it away.
Yeah.
We've encountered several cabinets that they have been damaged beyond repair, that have had, mold growing in them.
The answer is almost always water, right?
Well, water destroying the entire bottom. But, even certain cabs, you can do repairs to the bottom. You can replace different things. But there are definitely several cabinets that we've come into that are just beyond repair. You can pull the components. You can rebuild the cabinets and do different things. But some of them at that point, they're just falling apart as is, and they're just too far gone.
I'm thinking about times where you you're like even in an auction, you've just bought it because like in the auctions they put them all close together, right? So and you get the dolly, you start to pull it back, and the dolly just starts to go through the inside of the cabinet, and you're just like, how am I going to get this on the truck?
Well, I felt that very much with the Zaxxon that we were moving today. It was waterlogged. The monitor was falling out. The sides were falling off the cabinet. It had all of its support beams that had fallen out. It was.
And if you're a long time,
the control panel was ripped like into two different pieces.
This was part of the Kelly Ray lot. Mm-hmm. It was the second Zaxxon that we got as part of that lot. That was just, I don't even know why. I mean, it was completely destroyed. And so that's actually one of the things we're doing here today is trying to get our storage in a little bit better shape.
That one is not in the auction, by the way.
You cannot buy the destroyed Zaxxon.
It was not good enough to bring to auction.
So, but auctions at the end of the day are pretty fun. And I think that's never lost on me. It's a lot of fun to get into it. And someone was talking to me because I guess in one of the auction videos I was like, I got everything that I wanted to, and I made everyone else pay exactly what I didn't want to. And they got really mad at me, right? But I think that's kind of like a weird thing to be mad at me about, because like I wanted to buy the stuff. It was just other people were willing to pay more, and I can never feel bad about not overpaying, but also making sure that I didn't let it go too cheap because I did want it, right?
Well, that's fair.
I think I was talking to some people though that come to these auctions, and they were talking about how they hate bidding for anything because then they feel like obligated to keep bidding, which is not a good thing. That's kind of like a mistake in your buying strategy.
Yeah, so I've watched you bidding at auctions for a really long time, and I think the thing that I can appreciate most about your bidding style is you go into everything that you have a remote interest in, whether it's something that you really want strongly or don't. But you kind of set a price, and no matter what the game is, there are certain games that you're willing to extend that price if it goes up there and you'll contemplate going a little bit higher. But for most of the games, it hits that price, it hits that value point for you, and you just drop out. It's not personal at all as far as that goes. It's just, this is what it is worth to us. This is, where we drop off.
Well, yeah, and I guess it's also changed a lot. Like, now the needs that I'm trying to buy for have changed so much that it really is coming here to see what kind of new stuff we're going to get. And I very rarely even think about stuff I didn't buy, although I'm now trying to think in my head like some of the biggest disappointments. And I think every auction I actually have a little bit of disappointment probably for a unit or two, because I'll look at it and I'll realize that maybe I could have had it for another $100 or $200, and I really think about that price and I'm like, that was but that's me before we get to the item, not properly assessing it, not properly evaluating it. But so what do you have? Start thinking about it, because I have mine. Some of the best stuff, or your favorite stuff that we've bought at auction. Not just the best buys, but the actual kind of the best equipment that we bought. And I was thinking about two pinballs in particular that we've had from these two auctions, and I think we have them on YouTube, both of the buys. The Shadow that we have up in Denton.
Yes.
And the High Speed Getaway 2 that we have in Arlington. So both of those came off the auction floor. And I remember we paid, the retail price for that pinball, but both of them were in great shape.
Wait, wasn't the High Speed, was that the one that we ended up purchasing after the auction?
Yeah.
It didn't sell.
You're right.
And then it was Kelly Ray who had bought that in, and it didn't sell for the price that he wanted, and we offered him a certain price, and I forget what that was, and he graciously sold it to us. And,
you're right.
So we didn't have to take it back.
The Shadow we bought right off, but the High Speed, it was an after auction deal, and a lot of people have asked me about, because every video it seems like they have someone coming up trying to deal with me, and they say, does that make you uncomfortable? What is the auction company? And what I have told everyone, and I think that this is what every auction company will do for you, just tell, if that person is saying, I'll sell it to you for this, just ask them if they'll run it through the auction company, because then it's fair to everyone. And then you have kind of those protections that make you feel better about it, because the auction company is involved, and you're not just, you're not doing like a parking lot deal that could go south or I've never had any problem buying and selling games, but people get sensitive. There's money involved. It's a cash transaction, or it's often a cash transaction. But if you've got the auction company, they'll normally be able to work with you if you want to try to do like a side deal that was out of the auction on something that didn't get sold or something like that. And I don't think the auction company will ever hold it against you if you're like, can we run it through you? Because then they get their fees and they feel better.
That's fair.
And that's something that I read a lot about people complaining about having to pay auction fees, and all I think about is this takes work, right? This isn't easy
Absolutely.
to do, and we've seen enough auction companies come in and leave or file bankruptcy or just decide to stop doing it that I treasure anyone who's willing to run an auction here, and I happily pay my fee at the end because I think that's really important. And obviously, we buy so much that we get a lot out of these auctions, so we want it to be a healthy, robust arcade economy. But
we want as many people coming to these auctions as possible.
And the cool thing about auctions, and they'll always say it at the beginning of the auction, each auction is different, so it really is exciting. I mean, we're talking, there's a phone booth right there. I have no idea if I'm going to buy it or not, but man, a phone booth at an auction, that's crazy.
I mean, did not even look behind us.
It's a real phone booth, so you never know what's going to show up on these. You get a lot of ancillary coin-op stuff. And ultimately, now there's a ton of retro stuff. I think the retro sizes are bigger than ever, even though the auctions are smaller than ever. I think that's true. And pinball has been really picking up lately. I mean,
absolutely.
We came to some auctions just a few months ago, or not a few years ago, a couple years ago, and you'd have 2 or 3 pinballs in an auction. Here, even on a relatively small one, it looks like maybe 10 in that line. It's different. Got a World Cup of soccer right there. I'm kind of geeking out about because I think I actually just was talking to someone about that exact unit that showed up. And that's the other thing that I like about the auctions. Oftentimes, if you're kind of zoned into the local buying and selling market, you'll see these things come to auction, but you might have a lot more information about like where it came from, if there's issues or anything, because people have been trying to sell it, and then once the auction comes, that's when they can just say goodbye to it. Whatever it sells for is what it sells for. Someone asked for like in general how they should deal with like nerves and everything, and I think the truth is you gotta come and just do it, right? You gotta come and participate in an auction and see how it goes.
Get a buyer's tag even if you're not sure you're gonna buy anything. And
that's probably like maybe a good idea. Bid on a couple of things that are either it's so cheap that if it went for that price that you're bidding for, you'd happily take it. But if it goes above it, you at least got into the action a little bit and got used to the pressure and the nerves and everything.
I would say make sure if you're doing that though, make sure you have a way that you get it home in the event that you do win. Bring a trucker.
That's something that happens at this auction, at every auction, where you'll have something that's sold early. And then about an hour or two down the road, they'll be wheeling it back into the auction, scratch it off, and just be like, all right, guys, because you still have to pay for it.
Right.
But then you can put it back in the auction and hope that, I've seen people buy stuff, put it back in the auction and make money. But also, I've seen people buy something, put it back in the auction when, 200 units have been sold and most of the buyers are gone and lose $100 or $200 just coming to an auction. So make sure you have a good plan, even if it's kind of like what I used to have, which was I have this box truck. If I don't necessarily have storage for it, it's a rental box truck. It has to be. But I have in the back of my head where the nearest public storage is that has the first month for $1 or whatever. But yeah, definitely have a plan because that can get really dangerous. And I guess my advice, and this has kind of been touched on, is to come and just buy for yourself. Don't try to buy to make money, to try to flip. Don't come to an auction because if you're trying to do that, the only way you're ever going to make money is to just meet people, go on Craigslist, go to garage sales, and just be the first person to get these really good deals that exist out there. You're not
right. You're looking for the deals at that point.
But I guess that's kind of crazy to me is people come to the auctions and they're in a room full of 30 or 40 people who know exactly how much each game is worth. And they expect that it's going to be like a great deal, which is unlikely, right? It's much more likely that someone will post and just be like, I have these 2 arcade games and you can go get it. And the nice thing is, we used to get a lot of deals that way, but not anymore. We don't really, we very rarely have time or the inclination to jump on a single game deal just because it's so much work for one game. It has to kind of be a special payoff, like those Super Neo 29s, those kinds of are special things that we're scrambling for. But
well, of course, but there's so many games that we have purchased over the years where it's just someone posts something online on whatever site and says, hey, I've got a game or 2 for sale. We shoot them a message and say, hey, we'll pay your asking price. We can pick it up ASAP. Just let us know.
Yeah, and the other thing to do, maybe if you're trying to find a specific game and you don't want to go through that hard work where you set all your searches and everything, maybe go on Craigslist, see who you see selling games, and send them a message. And don't say, hey, I'm willing to pay X. Just be like, hey, if you ever get one of these in,
I'm looking for
message me. And that way they'll know in the back of their head, while they're out there picking something, they might have a buyer, and they'll probably pass along any deal that they get. They'll make a little bit of money in between, but you're not going to be probably paying the retail price.
All right.
So there's a lot of resources out there. Gosh, I love auctions. Like, it's so cool just to be here. I mean,
well, I just remember coming to them and them being kind of like an event. You would have people who would just come with their full families. The kids would come play games. Like, it's a great value. You can come in for free. Like, bid on stuff, don't bid on stuff, play stuff, while it's open. It's a great bit of entertainment. Plus, you get to watch all the bidding. Like, there's all of that going head to head.
And
I think it's really entertaining, to be completely honest.
Well, and we've been called, like, people have wondered why we're doing, like, what seems like pro auction marketing. Like, we're like, yes, auctions are great, and a lot of it, I mean, it is a lot of fun, but it's also kind of self-serving to us because we want people to bring as much stuff to these auctions.
Absolutely.
We want people to make as much money at these auctions because our interest is in finding new and cool things, and buying a lot of them at once too. That's also a really big help for us, because if we see something on Craigslist, for example, that we can get for, say it's a $400 arcade and they're selling it for $300 or anything, that by the time we get an employee and get ready, get the truck, store it and everything, we're not going to make any money on that, and it's not going to be like a significant better value for us than just coming to an auction when we're going to buy a truckload and paying $300.
Well, I think that can be said about any situation. I mean, if we find games in like Maryland, if we're buying a single game, it's not really worth the money to transport it and get it shipped over, whereas if we find multiple, it becomes more cost effective. Same thing with auctions. If you're coming to buy a single game, personally that may be worth it to you, but for us, there's a real value in just being able to buy a lot of things at once and just be done with it.
So yeah, I mean, we'll be getting into this in later videos, but there's definitely, I'm interested because I was saying, we're ramping up. We're really like excited about opening all these extra new arcades that we're talking about opening. So I'm kind of, seeing which kind of reach buys I'm going to make tomorrow. But I guess I can't say because this is going to go up tomorrow, so people could use this against me. I got to be careful.
Nice.
I got to watch myself. But yeah, so we're in Louisville, Texas.
Woo. Premier Event Center.
Premier Event Center, and we've seen the level of production kind of go down in some of the auctions. I remember when it was at the Mesquite Rodeo, I remember they had lights and stuff.
Nice.
Because they were in the rodeo, right? So they'd actually use the lights. They'd have spots on the games they were selling. It was this big, huge thing, which I always thought was unnecessary, and I always thought maybe we're paying too much money here. So then they went to Big Town, which is of course kind of similar to this, the Louisville Event Center. I mean, it's just a room with space, and that's all you can ask for.
Well, and they would always rent out the areas next to. I mean, they had the alternative building that they do antiques or
Right.
the gun show and different things.
Well, and there's on YouTube. There's a video of us being here, and there's a country boy band YouTube TikTok. I don't remember what it was, but there was someone else here signing out. That was crazy. So that's actually always really exciting when you show up and you realize there's two shows booked at the same day, because you have no idea what the other side's going to be like, but it's going to be weird and interesting.
It's just cool.
The last thing I wanted to talk about, people were telling me how do I get a cheap pinball or something?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Luck?
Yeah.
A little bit?
I mean, don't care what game it is. Because if you don't care at all what pinball game and you're just trying to get any kind of pinball, just go buy one of those late to mid 80s Gottlieb solid state games, where they were making all these, kind of knockoff style games. But just buy it. You can get them. I mean, sometimes you can find out $500-$600. I think our Hollywood Heat that we bought was $700. Now, of course, it's a Denton Heat. It's been fully reskinned. It's one of the best
Custom
deals for us.
sounds.
But that was because we had a tech that could just go to town on it and really make it awesome. But that I guess, because if you have a specific game, you're gonna end up paying whatever the price is.
Well, we know we've got certain games that we spent years looking for, and I mean, even after years looking, we're paying the premium prices for.
Right. And just happy to be able to get it.
Well, right.
And that's how collectability works. And that was I'll always go over on time. But so someone was asking me kind of what we look for at auctions, what puts certain games and we're willing to reach for. And I think that this is well known in the arcade world. Condition, mm-hmm. Right? So you'll often see people selling two different, I'll just pick Defender because I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but you'll see two Defenders listed for $700, $800. And one of them will be completely ratted out, one of them will be in great condition, and the sellers generally just, they might not even know, but they're just hoping that people don't really care about the difference. And there's a huge difference between a good defender and a bad defender. Same can be said for every single game, and especially on pinball, right? Pinball, with the actual user interacting with a ball that's bouncing around, breaking stuff, it's all about how much it's been played, and you can really tell one that's been kind of ratted out and one that's in good shape.
Well, right. It's easy with pinball to see what's been maintained and what hasn't been maintained. There are lots of telltale signs. I mean, those machines, they get dirty, the rubbers wear, like the plastics break, and anyone who's been maintaining the machine, you're going to see a lot more of that work put in to make sure that it is looking beautiful, it's playing well. Anyone who's just had one like on site or on route somewhere and just kind of let it fall apart until, they get rid of it and get a new one, you're going to be able to see all those signs of wear.
Right. Well, and that is, we're here today. This is the preview day. This is actually normally when they load everything in. That you're allowed to come preview stuff, but just before the auction, the morning of, they try to turn on all the games and give you a good, solid preview time. And I think that's really, really valuable.
Absolutely.
To come, because you only have so much time. You have a couple hours, but you can come and actually experience, play the games, look around. And if someone wants a tip, like to assess quality, we were talking about it before, you might notice that all the games are really compact. You can't necessarily see the sides. During the preview time, try to see if you can get an idea on the side and everything, because it's something, one, the auction company is doing to make sure that they have everything right next to each other really close and not having to take up much space, but also because they just want people to make impulse decisions. They want people to just go for it and buy it. So it's on you to get all the information. It's as is, where is, how it sits. So I think it's totally fair, but you have to do your due diligence to come in and try to grab some stuff.
Absolutely.
So we'll be back here in the morning. We're going to hopefully buy a truckload or 6 truckloads. I don't know. That might be everything here. So
please don't buy 6 truckloads. I just getting some storage space.
So we are making progress. We're going to sell some stuff. So that's the next video I'm going to go shoot right now. Kind of walking through what we're selling, what I expect, how much money we're going to lose just moving the stuff and throwing it away.
Should see about taking some stickers off of some of the stuff we brought.
So okay, yeah, let's get everyone working on that right now. But so guys, that's just kind of impromptu pre-auction preview podcast. A little bit of tips, a little bit of tricks. We've got, let's see, a lot of good stuff. We're gonna do the walkthrough. So for now, we're signing off. We're about to go really get into this auction, and if you're watching this, the auction is probably happening right now. So and if not,
if you happen to be near Louisville, just
right,
come on
down. Come on down, and if it's past whatever Saturday, this is, what is the date? It's the 26th, so it'll be the 27th. If it's past the 27th, check our channel. We probably have more awesome auction content from this very auction. So right now, we're signing off, and we'll be back soon.
Catch you later.